Thank you for joining me today for Monday morning devotion. When you open up the New Testament and begin reading the Christmas story in Matthew chapter 1, the first verse reads, "This is the genealogy of Jesus the Messiah, the son of David, the son of Abraham." And then the chapter continues with a whole series of who begat whose. And then finally in verse 17, it wraps it up by saying, "Thus, there were 14 generations in all from Abraham to David, 14 from David to the exile of Babylon, and 14 from the exile to the Messiah." Most people like to skip this section because it reminds them of the book of Numbers in the Old Testament and can be, to be quite honest, rather tedious to read. But in looking at the Christmas story from the beginning of Matthew, I am reminded of several things. First, I am reminded that God kept his promise to Jacob. God had promised Jacob in Genesis chapter 49, verse 10, that a Messiah would come from the line of Judah. God kept his promise. And then I am reminded that Jesus was born into a whole ancestry of kings, and that he is the King of all kings. I am also reminded that he keeps good records and has another record-keeping book called the Book of Life, mentioned in Revelation 20:12. That verse reads, "And I saw the dead, great and small, standing before the throne, and books were opened. Another book was opened, which is the Book of Life. The dead were judged according to what had been done as recorded in the books." We can be assured that the name of every person born will be written in this Lamb's Book of Life. Have you ever ran into someone and you couldn't remember their name? How embarrassing it is, right? And then have you ever run into someone that you thought should know you and they couldn't seem to remember who you were? Well, this doesn't happen with God. He doesn't forget your name. Isaiah 43:1 says, "Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine." Psalm 139 talks about how much God knows about us. To me, this is comforting when I'm going through a down day because I realize that God knows what I'm going through. And then when I have something exciting happen, God knows about the victory that I'm having and he is rejoicing with me. To know that he knows everything about me is both comforting and at the same time brings about a godly reverence that makes me want to please him more and to live according to his word. So this may be somewhat of a different slant to the Christmas story than you were expecting today. But next time you read the Christmas story, starting from the book of Matthew, from the very beginning, don't skim through those first 17 verses. Instead, be reminded that God keeps his promises, that he is the King of all kings, and that he is really good at keeping records. He knows everything about your 2020 and how it has affected you. He knows your personal struggles and he knows what makes you happy. But above everything, he wants you to know him as your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. He wants to develop that personal relationship with him. My prayer for you is this Christmas 2020, that you will make him your Lord and Savior so that your name will be recorded in the Lamb's Book of Life as a follower of Jesus Christ. Have a blessed week, everyone. I look forward to seeing you next Monday.